why would Vashti, allow, was the reason that he was able to become king in the first place? Why would he do something so foolish as
killing her?
Right, and on these things that show irrational behavior.
The pshat of the book always has inside of it the most depth. Everyone else has a desire to not look at what the text says and just to spin stories, but that's not the real way to study the Megillah. We're going to talk a little about Hashgacha Pratit. There's an important note, something to understand. What is Hashgacha Pratit? I'm not here to stick my head now between the definition of Hashgacha Pratit as explained by the Rambam and Hashgacha Pratit as explained by the Baal Shem Tov. The Rambam is explicit in saying that Hashgacha Pratit is on human beings, on general actions. Says the Rambam that if a leaf fell from a tree and landed on a bug and that bug was saved from the rain, that is not Hashgacha Pratit. That is simply the way that nature worked. The Baal Shem Tov is always quoted as saying that even the leaf that falls off the tree, that lands on the caterpillar, that saved it, that was Hashem's divine providence. Listen, if you want to go to war between the Rambam and the Baal Shem Tov, I welcome you to do it on your own. That's not here what I'm wishing to discuss. What is Hashgacha Pratit? Rather, how does one experience Hashgacha Pratit? How does one experience the providence of Hashem in their life? There are people who believe that you could prove to somebody that Hashem exists, or to prove to somebody that the Torah is real by the fact that we have a Torah that gives you free will. It would therefore deem it impossible to prove that there is a God in the world, and it would be impossible to prove that the Torah is divine. Because if you could prove it, then I don't have a choice of whether or not to believe in it. Can I prove that the sun is a certain amount distance away from the earth? Could you prove it? Yes. So do I have a choice now to believe? I think my belief is the sun is a different distance from the earth. That's not a belief. 2 + 2 is 4.
Yeah.
Could I believe that it's 5?
No.
You could get it wrong on the test. You could, but it's not going to be the true answer. In the Torah, if I have the freedom to believe in Hashem or not, it's because I have the ability to make that decision. If it was compelling, one way or the other, then it wouldn't be free will anymore. And whereas that bothers many people because the flavor of the Jewish outreach movement, which has caused a lot of disaster and destruction to the Torah itself, and has been to prove to people this and to prove to people that, it took away a lot of the sophistication that was inside of the Torah. And really, really, if I will tell you that one who knows Hashem exists will find Him everywhere. And one that doesn't believe that Hashem exists will find Him nowhere. Because that's the way Hashem works. Because that's the way this is. When I look for divine providence in my life, I will find it. If I believe in it. If I don't believe in it, everything is a coincidence. Everything just happened to be this way, to be that way. What can you do? It's a coincidence. Depends. I don't know if you believe in coincidence or not. There's a famous question the Lubavitch Rebbe asked on Megillah Ester. And though I wouldn't be very far away to tell you that the commentaries of the Lubavitch Rebbe are pshat, but this one is a pshat. Lubavitch Rebbe asked, what did the Jews do so bad that they deserve to be wiped out? They deserve to be killed. For what? Because they ate from the meal that was kosher, but it was by the king. Because they celebrated the destruction of the temple. That's enough of a reason to wipe out a whole generation. Says Lubavitch Rebbe something very novel. The Midrash says about us that we are like a sheep that is surrounded by 70 wolves. And the only reason those wolves don't devour us alive is because they're afraid of the shepherd. If the wolves see the shepherd goes away, the first thing they're going to do is going to attack us. Our natural state of being as a Jewish people is the whole world wants to kill us and they're going to be successful. And it's only because Gadol HaOeh, the great shepherd who stands on top of us and is protecting us from all those wolves. Says Lubavitch Rebbe that when a person decides that he doesn't want Hashem in his life anymore, Hashem says, okay, Let me just show you what life is like without me. And immediately it's not punishment. It's not you did something wrong and therefore I'm going to destroy all the Jewish people. I'll show you, says Hashem, what is going to happen to Jewish people who lives in exile and they decide that they don't need Hashem anymore. And this is what happens. Haman comes. And he is successful in convincing the king to wipe out the Jewish people. What's the way in which we turn back the tide? How does Esther lead the Jewish people into believing in Hashem again?
Miracle.
What does she do?
She fasts.
She doesn't just fast alone.
No, she makes everybody fast.
She tells Mordechai, Lech kenos et kol haYehudim. Go gather all the Jews. V'tzumu alai. Fast for me. Val tochlu val tishtu laila v'yom. And don't eat or drink, not day or not night. How many days? 3 days. And the Jewish people are praying together. And at this point, they realize, hey, HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the world again. That's all that needs to happen. Once the Jewish people are aware that Hashem runs the world again, the shepherd is home, the 70 wolves are not successful anymore. They disappear. There's a book written by one of Chachamei Ashkenaz of the last generation. His name was Rav Gedalia Shaar. And he writes that literally this point. If you choose to not experience Hashem in your life, you never will. And if you choose to experience Him, you'll find Him everywhere. And that's the irony, because a person who's always looking to get proven that Hashem is real will never find Him. Because it eludes Him. Because everything that Hashem does can be explained by nature. Everything that Hashem does can just be summed up as coincidence. If Hashem was so obvious in our faces, we would never have the freedom to decide between Him and what is false. When you look in the Megillah, you see a story that just seems like a good story. I don't have to believe in Hashem to believe in this story. There was a king, there was a hero, there was that. Esther went, she convinced him, and look at that! The Jewish people won, Hashem is not here. Why do I have to believe in Hashem? There are a lot of stories like this in people's lives. Stories of great coincidences. And you can call that power whatever you wish. But we identify that power as a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Other people might not. And that's why we look into the Psukim to find what is Hashgacha here. How overwhelming is the Hashgacha inside of the Megillah. You know, yesterday I mentioned about Haman. Haman, can I ask you to bring me, you see this book with the orange stripes? Yeah. Somebody want to find me the pasuk in the first chapter, which it tells you the word Memuchan, the name of Haman, Memuchan. Want to find it in the first chapter here?
Oh, I found it.
Yeah, what does it say?
The whole verse?
Yeah.
In English or Hebrew?
You can read English, it's fine.
Those closest to him were Karshena.
Well, so go back one pasuk.
Then the king conferred with the experts who knew the times. For such was the king's procedure to turn to all who knew law and judgment. Those closest to him were Karshena, Shethar, Admatha, Tarshish, Meres, Marsena, and Memuchan, the 7 officers of Persia and Media, who had access to the king and who sat first in the kingdom. As to what should be done legally to Queen Vashti for not obeying the bidding of King Ahasuerus conveyed by the chamberlains.
So what happens?
Memuchan declared before the king and officials, is not only the king whom Vashti has wronged, but also all the officials and all the people in the provinces of King Ahasuerus.
So you find, where is Memuchan? If there's the king, who's sitting right next to the king?
What number down is he?
Which number down? Yeah, this is a
He's
Which
the last
number
one.
down is he? That's
He's the
what I'm
last
saying.
one.
He's the last one. If he's the last one, what is he doing speaking first? Maybe he's the most important one. Is he the most important one?
No,
How do you know that?
he's last.
So what?
Or maybe he's the one that's yelling.
Fight me.
Back there.
It is so what? Yeah. The one who's sitting closer to the king is closer to the king. The one sitting farther away from the king is farther away from the king. That's the way it works
Right.
everywhere. If the guy at the meeting is sitting next to the CEO, then he must be the second in command. There's a president, the guy sitting down next to him is the vice president. That's the way this works.
Right.
So Haman's ego, his gava, is the one that's making him talk first.
Right.
There's a halakha that you're sitting with people, the one who speaks, never speak in front of people who are greater than you. Say the chachamim. It's a good lesson in life.
So he was like almost like a puppet king in a sense, you could say, because his ministers were more powerful in a sense than he was.
That's an interesting way to look at it.
Because he was also very influenced. Like if one said this, he went this way. The other said they went that way.
That's an interesting point. I wasn't going there, but that's not a bad observation at all. Achashverosh does seem to be a person who's not clear in a lot of areas, or that there are things that are more important to him than leadership. His money, he likes, his wine, he likes. Other things are less important to him.
Banquets.
This is really that, his banquets. The Shulchan Aruch says in Orach Chaim, in chapter 170, Shulchan Aruch talks about halachot of derech eretz, how to eat properly at a meal. You're sitting at a table, and there's a big, it's not like today, you eat your plates and your forks and your knives. There are big bowls of food that go around that people eating with their hands. Okay, like it or not, that's the way we ate for thousands of years. In all of your civilized and manners and etiquette, the world that we have today looks much worse than it did 200 years ago. Two people are sitting at this bowl. Who sticks his hand in the bowl first?
The boss.
The bigger one. The one who's bigger, he eats first. When I was a little kid, my father used to hand out the chalot to us. And a slice challah here to my mother, then to the older son, to the next son. And my little brother used to throw tantrums. He was like 3 or 5. I don't know. It wasn't, don't hold it against him. What do you mean? Why does he get before me? Okay, it's a hard thing, Why does he get before me? But the truth is that according to halakha, and I'm not saying that I'm greater than him or less. I was like 8, so I couldn't have been that special of a person. But if one sticks their hand in first, Maran says the gargaran. This guy's like, he's a glutton. Shows you that he doesn't have proper manners. What are you eating first before somebody else? They ask to give it to After they go to place. You want to give it to Nah, I'm okay.
Do we have a hand that we eat with like the Arabs do?
We have a hand that we eat with. Yes, we.
The Arabs eat with the left hand, but never with the right hand.
Right. The reason for that is we have the exact opposite order than they do. We eat with the right hand and never with the left hand.
Oh, it's your left hand.
What?
Right. The hand that you put on tefillin would be the hand that you eat with. Haman is the beginning of his own downfall. He's the person who causes himself to fall. His ego. Don't jump up and speak about everything in the world. There are people in the world, you ask them, they have an opinion about everything, even what they don't know about. Don't be one of those people. Say, I don't know, I'm not sure, I'm not familiar with the topic which you're discussing right now. What are you going to hurt yourself? It's going to hurt yourself when you lie. When you come out looking like a fool.
So how does Haman become the Muchan?
The Mukhan, as our rabbis say, is a nickname for him. He was Mukhan. He was always quick to kill people. This was his. He was ready. He was prepared. He always had an answer in his mouth. He always had an idea. This is Haman. Now, the same Haman, which I'm going to tell you about in just a second. Let me read a little bit more of the Megillah. So I asked you yesterday. We're going to end off with the story. Why is it that Achashverosh waits so long to reward Mordechai? It doesn't make sense. He saved his life. He didn't do him a small favor. He did him a big favor. And you would say, so because he didn't care. He was an egotistical king. Doesn't care. He was arrogant. Didn't care to pay you back. But he does. Look, in that night where he remembers that he didn't pay Mordechai back, he can't sleep. He can't sleep. And what is he thinking? Maybe there's something that I forgot to do. He views Sefer Divrei Zichronot Lefanav. They bring the book of memories, the records in front of him. He starts going through, Mordechai, who saved my life. Did I ever pay him back? He doesn't even remember. And they tell him, no, you haven't. And he immediately summons, let's go bring him. So it's not the kind of person that didn't want to pay Mordechai back. He just forgot. Of all the things to forget, it's this one. Mordechai became dear to him, we said yesterday, because Mordechai was at the right place at the right time. He overheard two people that shouldn't have been talking where they were talking. He was not the type of person to stick his head in someone else's conversation. But again, this is all Hashgacha. He remembers about Mordechai exactly when he needs to be thinking about Mordechai. This is between the first feast and the second feast with Esther.
And he knew that Mordechai was a Jew, obviously, because of Haman.
He knew Mordechai was a Jew, correct. Which means that didn't stop him from paying back Mordechai.
Wasn't it the same time that Haman was coming to tell him he wanted to
Exactly
make
the
the
same
gallows?
day. Exactly the same day.
That's perfect.
See, had Esther brought everything up at the first meal, none of this would have happened. Mordechai would not have been remembered by the king. Haman had yet come to try to hang Mordechai. A lot of the things that Esther gets perfect timing on in the second feast didn't happen yet in the first feast. So she's waiting. Shlavei Maparato, there's now levels of Haman's downfall. You watch a man who got all the way to the top and is slowly experiencing one downfall after the next downfall after the next downfall. There are some people in the world, and they call them in England, they were disgraced. They started at a certain point and they found something wrong. You know, a person can handle an accusation, a problem. Okay, everybody, nobody's perfect. But when it's one, and the next, and the third one, and the fourth one, and the fifth one, and the sixth one, already, how much can we handle from you? In Hebrew, the word they have for scandal is parasha. Like a new parasha is coming. Like it's a new episode in this person's life. So somebody once, I'm not saying anything bad about the Prime Minister, don't get me, just a story. Someone said there was a Hasidic Rebbe, and he tells the Prime Minister Netanyahu, he says, you know, I read about you, I study your newspaper articles every single day. He said, why are you studying my newspaper articles? He said, because every day you come out with a new parasha. You know, every day there's a new commotion going on over there.
It's entertaining.
He has more parashiot than the Chumash. Unfortunately, Haman becomes disgraced. He's falling down. And it doesn't happen at once. It happens step by step by step. The first one, Haman, he thinks he's the top of the world. You know when a person thinks they're the top of the world? That everything has to do with them. Some people think that the entire world revolves around them. They came to the synagogue. You didn't say hello to them. Why didn't you say hello to them? You were looking at your little kid playing on the floor. That's why. You meant to ignore them? No. Did you notice them? No. Is the reason you didn't notice them because you hate them? No. So why do you get so mad? It would be so easy to say, look, this person was just busy with their kid. Why are you offended for me? But I can't, because in my head, the only thing you can possibly be thinking about is me. And when I think like that, everything you do has to do with me. That speaks volumes about a person. When the whole world literally has to do with me. What kind of person are you? This is Haman. Haman comes to the king.
Narcissist.
Comes to the melech, and the king says, Who's outside? Who's over there? If I'm not mistaken, this is the middle of the night, no? Why is Haman coming in the middle of the night?
Question.
He must be really excited about this plan. He decided that he found a way to kill Mordechai. This is his enemy. So he's willing to go wake up the king in the middle of the night to help him with the personal vendetta that he has against Mordechai. Mordechai did something to the king? No? Why would I bother you for something that's my problem? Because the whole world revolves around Haman and his ego. Haman comes, and the king says, Who's there? Mi omed b'chazer. Haman omed b'chazer b'melech ha'pnimid. He's standing outside of the king's chambers. And the king says, Yavo, let him come in. But in old Hebrew, when somebody would knock on the door and you would say, come in, you would say, Yavo. Yavo, come in. It's like the king said to Haman, Yavo. Today, that's really like outdated Hebrew lingo. But it used to be in the olden days, someone knocked, Yavo, come in. Haman comes in, and the king asks him a question. He says, what would you do if there was somebody very special that I needed to thank, to praise, to give, what does Haman say? Who could he be speaking about? Only about me. Why would the king ask you about yourself?
This is like an epic surprise.
And so like, Haman is like, all he can think about is me. And the king's asking him, what would you do if there was a person he had to give thanks to? And you know, if there really was about Haman, Haman is an utter fool. What does Haman tell the king?
Put me on a horse.
Put me on a horse, not any horse, the king's horse.
King's horse and the
Dress me in the king's clothes. And have a very important person, here is thinking Mordechai, take me through the streets and saying, Kacha yaseh la'ish. This is what will happen to the king, Asher HaMelech Chavez Bikaro, that the king loves him, that the king wants to honor him. Are you a fool? You ever see this guy in Korea? Anybody that's related to him is dead already. Anybody that even said a word like, maybe I'm going to sit in your throne one day, he's dead. You're going to the king. You think he's talking about you. And you're telling the king, you know, king, it would be nice if you wanted to say thank you to me. Put me on your horse. Let me wear your clothes. Let me go around the streets of Shushan with some really important guy proclaiming me almost like I'm the next king. He's asking to be put to death. He's so obsessed with himself that he's even endangering himself. Why would you say that? The last thing you want to do when you stand, you know, when I go to a city to teach. I was in New York recently. One of my friends invited me to teach in his Beit Knesset. I go out of my way to call up the different rabbis that I know there. Even though New York is a big city, guys. Just to let them know I'm coming to town. I accept an invitation. I'm not here to overthrow your empire here that you have going on in New York. Unnecessary things. Why? Just that nobody will think that I came in order to do something else. Do I have to? No, but from my experience, I learned that it's better that way. Go to Los Angeles. There are enough rabbis that I know. For example, the night that I came to speak last time in Los Angeles, that same night, Rabbi Sultan, who's also my bedin, was giving a class the same exact hour. I didn't know. I called him up and I just want to let you know, we live in LA is a big city. You're on one side, I'm going to be on the other side. I'm so happy you're teaching. If I could make it, I would be by your class. Rabbi Benzikin came to show that this is approved by him. But it's important. You're around places, you have to know sometimes you don't want to play people. I want to be blunt. I don't want to play games. I love when people speak directly. You know, there's a lack of derech eretz when people speak directly. Especially the bigger you are, the more you have to be careful. When you're a nobody, so you can say whatever you want, who cares? But when you represent people, when you represent other people, when you represent communities or synagogues or yeshivot or countries or whatever it is, you have to be the most refined individual that you can be. Because you're not just speaking for yourself. You're speaking for the whole world. And to be unrefined reflects poorly on everybody else. Haman cares only about himself. And so he tells the king, you know, king, yeah, I would wear your throne, your crown if I could. He says the crown. No, what does he tell him? No. 6th chapter. What is done? Yeah, because look. So Haman said to the king, for the man whom the king especially wants to honor, have them bring a royal robe that the king has worn, and a horse that the king has ridden, one with a royal crown on his head.
A royal crown on a horse?
A royal crown on the horse?
I think it had like
Is that what Megillah said? That's the
something.
pshat.
Could be just a
Keter
decoration.
malachut berosho.
That red book. Could you bring it with me?
Yes. This is Asher Neten Keter malachut
Wait, it
berosho.
sounds like there was the crown on the horse's head. 1 second.
Susa
Moshe, yes,
shebachar b'alav hamelech, Asher Neten Keter malachut berosho.
There's
It
like,
says on his head.
no, this is like, it was like the president, the king card, right? So maybe these with the crown and
Would they put it on a horse's head? I don't know.
maybe to make it look nicer.
The
Does it
king's
look-
crown on the horse?
No.
That would be like an insult to
Oh,
the
yeah.
king, right? That's another
Or
way
maybe
to
the
look at
horse has another crown.
it. A royal crown.
Or a royal crown. Yeah, that's a king crown.
Guys, it's a mystery to me. No, hold on. The Midrash tells you that they speak about in detail how Haman was dressing Mordechai. He took the crown and put it on Mordechai's head. So it's talking about the crown on Mordechai, not on a horse. Who wears a crown on a horse?
Wouldn't stay on.
Yeah, I don't think that would. I'm not sure the horse would like that so much. Haman comes, and Achashverosh says, I like that idea. Go to Mordechai. You know him? Did you know him? He tells him who he is. He's Jewish. Asher Yoshev b'Shaar HaMelech. He normally sits in the gate of the king. Go find him. It's like he's telling Haman as if Haman doesn't even know. Now, why did Haman come here? Why is he speaking to the king?
Because he wants to hang Mordechai.
He was just about to hang Mordechai. If the king would have given him 5 minutes, he would have been able to do that. Mordechai, that you want me to go. Of course I know he is. He's my biggest enemy. That's why I came here to talk to you tonight. Instead of that, Haman doesn't even get a chance. Haman immediately says, you go take that clothing and the horse, exactly the one that you said. And go do it to Mordechai the Jew. And walk in the streets of the city and say, this is what will happen to a person who respects the king. What happens immediately after the story? What does the Megillah say?
Goes home and his wife tells him,
He goes home to the love of his life.
he says if he's...
On page 1258.
Again, this king has a short memory because he doesn't remember that he just asked all the Jews to be exterminated.
I don't think one has to do with the next. He's going to honor the Jews, they'll kill him afterwards. This is straight out of the Middle East, this one. One must think about the Middle East when they think here. Pasuk 12. Vayashov Mordechai el Shaar HaMelech. Moshe, why Vayashov and not Vayashav?
Very good question.
Fantastic, right?
Yes.
Vayashav means that Mordechai sat down. So this verse must be Vayashov. Why Vayashov? Because that second kamatz is a chataf kamatz. Kamatz katan. We pronounce that Va, Ya, Shov.
Okay. Okay.
Why Mordechai? Why not Mordechai? His name is not Mordechai, it's Mordechai, no? That's what it says, kamatz. In Baltimore, they read his name Mordechai, not Mordechai. In Ashkenaz pronunciation, this is not Mordechai, that's not his name. That's the Sephardic pronunciation of his name. His name is Mordechai. Not a but a. Yeah? Mordechai, because we know that kamatz is a kamatz katan. And therefore that kamatz is pronounced, this was supposed to be a Hebrew class now, so we're just throwing in some Hebrew.
Thank you.
Vayashov Mordechai el Shaar HaMelech. Mordechai comes to the gate of the king. V'Haman nidchaf el beito avel v'chafui rosh. And Haman hurries home. Avel, mourning. V'chafui rosh. And his head is covered, like a mourner. You may not know this, but in the Shulchan Aruch and the laws of mourning, one of the halachot that a mourner must do is to keep his head covered, the whole shiva. Not with a kippah, like wrapped in a scarf. My father's family, that's what they do. The Yemenite custom is still to do this. Today nobody does this. Why? The Jews today are just paranoid of everything. It looks too Muslim to them. They can't handle it anymore. Everything to them looks too Muslim.
Now, there's a problem here.
What's the problem? We didn't start the problem yet.
You don't have a Jerusalem Bible here by any chance?
No, I don't.
Because they have alternate spellings and vowels of certain words.
In Hebrew or English?
In Hebrew.
Interesting. I don't know.
I'll bring it maybe tomorrow. I'll bring it. There's some interesting
Okay.
differences. I wonder if this would be one of them.
Interesting to see. Vaysaper Haman et Zeresh ishto. So Haman tells Zeresh, his wife, Ulchol ohavav, and to all those that love him, et kol asher karahu. They tell him everything that happened to him. When you tell your family something bad that happened to you, Chaz v'shalom, what are you expecting them to say?
To be sympathetic.
Don't worry.
Don't worry, it'll be alright. Gamzei avor, this will also pass. Yeah? Some inspirational teaching from Rabbi Nachman, how it's all going to be okay. instead of getting that, these are people who love him. They tell him, if Mordechai is really from the descendants of the Jews, that you began to fall in front of him, you will not be successful against him. Because you surely will fall in front of him. How many times does it say the word ipol, nafal, tipol? 3 times. 3 times.
Very right, it does. Tipol, lefanav, tipol, lefanav.
Yeah.
Look at that. Nefol, tipol, lefanav. Down, down, down.
Harav Peretz counts this.
Till he died.
He already fell once. He thought he was going to be successful against Mordechai, and now he fell. He has 2 more fallings that are going to happen to him. The second falling happened right now. His family. He came home to be disgraced by his family. The worst thing is when your family says, I don't believe in you. You won't be successful. Don't try. Give up. And that's not why I came home. I came home for you guys to support me. No. There's the same wife, by the way, who suggested that they should hang Mordechai in the tree. No? Yeah? Just telling him, what can you do? You'll never be successful. He's Jewish. They always win. Anti-Semitism? Straight out of Megillah Ester. So what happens? Odam medaberim imo. They were still talking to him, to his family. V'sarisei hamelech higiu. And the king's servants came. V'yavhilu lavid Haman al mishteh asher asta Esther. And they hurried to bring Haman to the meal to which Esther came. How does he look?
Looks all frazzled.
Mourning. His head is covered. His spirits are in the lowest place there. His family is destroying him. And immediately in the middle of that conversation, they take him. Harav says, why does it say that? Just say that they took him to the meal. Why does it say, Odam Debrim, why they were still talking to him? Meaning, he went to the second meal already distraught. This is part of his humiliation. He has to show up to the meal of the king after the king had just embarrassed him for all of Shushan. And what happens? He goes to the meal. Haman and the king come to drink with Esther the queen. Let's skip a few sentences. ותען אסתר מלכה ותאמר, and the queen says to the king, אם מצאתי חן בעיניך המלך, if I have won your majesty's favor, ואם על המלך טוב, and if the king is kind, תינתן לי נפשי בשאלתי, ועמי בבקשתי. Let my life be granted to me as I request, and my nation as I'm beseeching you, as I'm asking from you. If you had derech eretz, who do you speak about first? Everybody else or yourself?
Anybody else?
Me and my wife, or my wife and I?
My wife and I.
Why do you put my wife first?
It's respect.
But I'm more important. No, I'm not why, really. It doesn't make a difference how important you are. The way you speak respectfully is to put someone else's name before yours. She's speaking about the whole Jewish people. Why doesn't she ask the king to save the whole Jewish people? Inevitably, that will include her. Why does she save me and also save my whole people?
Because
You think that-
He doesn't know she's Jewish.
But he knows her. She's important to him. The Jewish people are just.
She's including herself.
You guys hear what Marlene is saying here? This is the issue. I'll tell you that's Pshat. The Pshat here is what Marlene said.
Because she's important to him.
couldn't care less about the Jewish people. He doesn't care. He cares about her. She's seducing him here into this. You know, King, you love me, don't you? Save me. While you're saving me, if you don't mind saving my whole family too, I'd really appreciate that. She's speaking the way she needs to speak. It doesn't look like Derech Eretz because she's not here to speak with Derech Eretz. She's here to speak about what's going to work. What's going to work is to make this personal. Once this becomes personal, the king comes on board also. And she's just beginning to make this personal. It's not over yet.
Right.
Kinimkarnu ani ve'ami. We have been sold, me and my nation, le'ashmid, la'arov, le'abed, to be wiped out, destroyed, and exterminated. V'ilu le'avadim v'nishfachot nimkarnu echirashti. If we were only to be sold as slaves, I would be quiet. Ken atzar shoveh b'nezek hamelech, because it's not worth the king's time for me to waste your time. Vayomer Melech Hashverosh, the king Hashverosh says, Vayomer Esther Malka, Mihu Ze Vezehu, who is this person? Asher HaMelao Libo La'asot Ken, who's going to do this to you? But the king is stupid. Just the other day, the guy was here selling my people. The king can't put two and two together.
Seems like it.
Mamash, he feels. I told you yesterday. I told you when I read the Megillah, I go back and forth. Hashverosh being evil to being stupid, and not clear as to maybe it's just both. Vatomer Esther, and Esther tells him, Ish tsar ve'oyev Haman hara hazeh. This evil Haman, he's the one. Whoa, you can imagine Haman's not expecting this. Haman thought he was getting invited to a dinner. Finally, no one else was invited except for me. Maybe this was going to be the end of a really good day. This is the third makkah that happens then. Really, you could count it as a second because the third is about to come. Haman, wait, you guys are talking about me tonight? Like, he probably was so out of it at this meal. Now all the spotlight's on him. Haman hara hazeh, why is he evil? You don't remember? Achashverosh, this is the same guy who tried to kill your wife, who killed your wife. Now he's back. He's trying to kill your second wife. What happens to Haman? Haman niv'at b'lifnei HaMelech v'Hamalka, and Haman is literally thrown out. What does it mean? Haman trembled in terror. Niv'at is like he leaves out from the king's chambers. He's so embarrassed. The king is so enraged, he says he has to go for a walk. He has to go to the garden. Haman says, listen, this is the end for me. The king is mad at me. My family tells me I'm going to die. Mordechai has been riding on a horse. And this is the end. So he stays behind to beg Esther, please, Esther, you do something. I didn't mean it. I'll take back. Whatever you think Haman is telling Esther right now. Whatever a dying man is going to say to save his life. Haman is begging from Esther because he saw that the king's hatred, his evil towards him is final. There's nothing he's going to be able to do. That's it. It's over. And then watch what happens. And the king decides, okay, I cooled down enough, it's time to come back inside. The Haman, what is Haman doing? Haman nofel al hamita asher Esther aleha. Haman falls down in the bed which Esther is on. Now there are two variations here, Pshat and Midrash. Let's start with the Midrash because everyone knows it. It says the angel Gabriel came and he pushes Haman to fall on top of Esther Malka. So the king comes in and he sees Haman on top of Esther. This is the end. Al-Peh says that's not Pshat. Pshat is, why is he falling down? He's like pleading for his life. He's grabbing onto her legs, or whatever he's doing. Please. The king sees Haman falling towards Esther, and this is it. What does he tell him?
What do you assault the king while he was in the house?
Yeah, he says, "Agam nechvosh et hamalka yemi babayit." You're gonna take my wife while I'm still in the house? This is the most personal of personal. You killed my first wife. You're trying to kill my second wife. And now that you realize I'm mad at you, you're trying to take my wife in front of me? Are you crazy? Look at the hashgacha that's happening here. This is all. If this would have happened in the first meal, none of this would have made a difference. But by the second meal, there's already a tree waiting. There's already Haman who's trying to kill Mordechai. The king already remembers the goodness of Mordechai.
So from
Haman he went from being the most precious person to the king to being right now, there's no one else in the kingdom, and the king hates more. הדבר יצא מפי המלך ופני המן חלפו. It's interesting, I don't know where this translation, if it's based off of Midrashim, I'm not going to ignore it. Vayom Charvona. Here comes a guy named Charvona. We don't know anything about him except for this. There's a song that's sung after Megillah Ester in the Ashkenazi tradition, Shoshanat Yaakov. Shoshanat Yaakov, Tzana V'Samecha, Be'od. And also in the Sephardic tradition, we don't sing the song, but we have Baruch Mordechai, Aru Haman, Baruch Esther, and we go on, and then we say V'gam Charvona Zechul HaTov, and also Charvona who's remembered for the good. Charvona, he has one role in the story. He's that annoying guy that's standing in the chamber. He says, "Hey, king, גם הנה עץ אשר עשה המן למרדכי, אשר דבטוב על המלך, עומד בבית המן. There's a tree. Haman put up a tree to hang Mordechai, who spoke good about you. But it's ready. The tree is waiting. It has a noose hanging from it. Vayomer HaMelech tluhu alav. Hang him from the tree. Vaychut Haman al ha'etz asher hechin Mordechai. And again, the Megillah repeats. They hang Haman on the same tree that he made for Mordechai. Everything that Haman does turns back to backfire on him.
It was in his house, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So it's like he comes back home where his family was, and it's hung in the house.
V'chamat HaMelech shachacha, and the king's anger cooled down. It's the second time the king executes somebody overnight. No trial, no jury, no nothing. Halapel says this is part of the plan. You see, if Chavona wasn't there, I mean, Achashverosh is ready to kill Haman anyways. But by tomorrow morning, Achashverosh might have cooled down a little bit. Let's look at this perspective. He paid me money to kill the Jews. You know, I was part of this story here. HaKadosh Baruch Hu can't give it another moment. Because we don't know if tomorrow morning Achashverosh is going to kill Haman. And therefore, it had to be that Haman wanted to kill Mordechai. Because if Haman didn't want to kill Mordechai, if he wasn't so zealous that he put up a tree already, then he would have never been hung on that tree. What we thought was the worst thing, like such an ugly person, like he made the tree. Before he went to talk to the king, he made a tree. But that's exactly what kills Haman. Because if Haman hadn't made that tree, the king wouldn't have had a way to kill Haman right away. And tomorrow morning, he might have just put him in prison. Or fined him a lot more money.
It sounds like Amalek, where we've gotten in trouble by not listening to Hashem and killing all the animals, this, that, women, kill everything having to do with the modern king, kill Hagag, and because we didn't, he was able to continue the progeny of Amalek. It's like you have to do it
Right away.
Yeah.
Very good. This whole story, first of Amalek, and then now, things are happening, you can't wait. There's no time to wait. Some things in life you wait for, but other things you wait, you miss opportunities. It's a window in time, there's a chance, it's closed, it's over. But this again, all of this with Machshavat Chila. This is all HaKadosh Baruch Hu orchestrating this. This story couldn't have happened more perfectly than it already does. When people are so busy looking everywhere else for what really happened in the Megillah, the secret of the Megillah. Why do you have to tell me the secret of the Megillah? The story as it's written is quite fascinating in and of itself. Why do you have to find secrets over there? What could possibly you discover that we didn't hear it? The whole point is to put emunah in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This story gives you emunah in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Sometimes there are things that we say, I remember, as a student in high school, reading all the stories about, in the same period in time, you're reading stories about the British that are keeping Jews out of the land of Israel, that are murdering Jews in the streets, that are fighting us, rounding us up, hanging, people in Akko. That same British government is also fighting in World War II, which ends up helping liberate the Jews from the hands of the Nazis. It's like a force that is fighting itself. But the man said, the same British that threw us out of the land of Israel built us an infrastructure over there that we waltzed right into. Something about them and not wanting us there is exactly where we ended up. Buildings the British built to be barracks, we have Israeli soldiers inside of them. Outposts they put up around the beach to stop smuggling Jews inside of. Today we have security posts over there. Every time you find an evil person, an evil government, that's dafka them. In Israel, I'm not telling you it's right or wrong. It's a very complicated matter to take reparations from the German government. They have made a deal with the Germans, they pay money. I don't think that all the money in the world the Germans would pay us will ever make back for what the Holocaust was. But it's interesting to note, if I'm not mistaken, it's the only government in the world that has ever tried to make any kind of reparations for something that they did to the Jews. The Vatican made reparations to the Jews. The Romans, the Greeks, the Persians, anybody made Hamas made reparations to the Jews? What?
Spaniards.
Okay, the Spaniards now, for their own good, they're trying to bring us back. Not reparations. They didn't. But sometimes when I wonder, and I see all these little Jewish kids in a bus in Jerusalem that has a Mercedes logo on it, I say, isn't that so ironic?
Yeah.
That the same people that they were ready to exterminate every last Jew on this earth. It's their work of their hands that has to carry Jews every day to yeshiva, to take them to the kotel, to take them to work in Tel Aviv. It's their bus. Hashem worked it out. It's not some bus we bought from the United States that was sponsored by the Germans. It's the Germans in the factory are building these buses so we could drive in them.
And the Jewish museum across the street from Hitler's headquarters in Berlin.
Wonderful. This is unbelievable. This is the way this Megillah works. Sometimes what you think is a destructive force ends up being the same thing that later on the Jews are using for something else. There's a certain validation that happens when the enemy is the one that ends up serving. What is it? That ends up happening that Esav will serve Yaakov. It's not enough that Yaakov will be served. Who's going to serve him? Esav. Because that's part of this coming around full circle in the Megillah. Estelle makes 2 meals, and I already explained to you with everything I was saying why there were 2 different meals. The first one, nothing was set up yet. There was no infrastructure. The king didn't think about Mordechai yet. Haman didn't want to hang Mordechai yet. There was no gallows ready to hang Haman. So therefore, that couldn't have happened in the first meal. But I think that here is important. This is a theory. I didn't see this in the writings of our parents. But it's something that I think is important to think about. And I could be wrong. This could just be me and my thoughts. I gave a class in Beverly Hills a few weeks ago when I was there for Shabbat. Called Tarof, not treaties. Are you familiar with the word Tarof?
Like a tariff.
Not a tariff, no. Tarof. Tarof is not a Hebrew word. It's a Farsi word. There is no translation of the word tarof because it doesn't have a word in another language. In fact, every warm culture has this concept of tarof, but only the Persians have a word for it. So let me explain.
Means what?
What?
Has a meaning?
It has a meaning, sure. I'll explain. Let's say my wife and I were going to get passports for Elchanan when we first wanted to fly to Israel with him as a baby. And we're standing there in the office, and there was a long line to get passports. The lady in front of us was holding this book. She was, it said, Warm Cultures and Cold Cultures. We asked her, what is that book all about? She's a Christian missionary that goes, her church, they have to donate like a month out of their year where they go to missionize in random countries in Africa and Asia, wherever they're going then. And they don't get paid for it. This is part of what they have to donate their time to. And she's reading all about warm cultures because she said we as Americans come from a cold culture. And therefore, we don't properly understand warm cultures. It was a very fascinating conversation. I'll explain to you what a warm culture is. It's exactly the difference between my family, let's say, and my wife's family. And both Jewish. I'm not here to say anything bad or right or wrong. There's no right or wrong here. The day after we got married, I told my wife, my parents are going to call to check in to see how I'm doing, if they need me to deliver food, if I have enough clothes. I said, are you crazy? My parents are not going to call us for the next week. It's a few years later. Don't worry, nothing changed either. But no. We spoke to my in-laws today in the morning. But really, for the first week at least, they kind of pull back and give you personal space. What is considered in the Ashkenazi culture personal space is a nice thing. Like to give a person space is considered a nice thing to do. In my culture, to give a person space means I don't care about you. You could drop dead. This is a real thing. When I was in Israel with my wife, I was sick. I had a stomach virus. And she had to go to Tel Aviv to take care of some things. And she left me for a whole day in Jerusalem alone. In the morning, my mother-in-law asked if I need anything. I said, no, I'm fine. Until the next morning when my wife came back, nobody knocked on my door. Why? They would give me personal space. And by the time my wife came home, I was so angry. So I could have been dying in this room. Nobody would have cared about me. Warm cultures versus cold cultures.
Like every 5 minutes.
When it was at a sentence last year, your friend that comes from a warm culture will give you his bed to sleep in, and he'll sleep on the floor, and then keep you up the whole night talking to you so you can't sleep anyway. So that's that kind of it's that kind of culture. But really, like let's say I lived somewhere else, and my mother would come visit me, and I would tell her, listen, my house, it's busy, it's dirty, the kids are all over the place, I don't have an extra bedroom for you. You can be like living on the couch or something. That's not fair. Let me put you up in the Waldorf Astoria. Let's put you in a fancy hotel. My mother-in-law would say, that's so nice of you. Like, really, she doesn't want to bother us. She doesn't want to have to take our food up. She'll come the whole day and take care of the kids, but she'll go back to her hotel at night, and she'll be thrilled that she doesn't have to, get in our way. My mother, if she would hear that, she'd cancel her ticket. She wouldn't come. You're telling me you don't have room in your house for me? What do you mean? There's nowhere on the couch that I could sleep? And you might find that to be some kind of conceited attitude, but it's not. It's a warm culture versus a cold culture. And unless you understand these cultures, you'll realize that depending on where you are, you'll embarrass people, or you'll fight with people, or you'll cause problems you never intended. For example, in a warm culture, when you come to somebody's house and they offer you something to drink, your answer must be no. I already drank at home. That's a lie. I'm not telling you should lie. I'm just telling you what the culture, how it works. Now, really, you're dying of thirst, by the way. You just say, no, I'm okay. The second time they ask you, the third time you ask, okay, you know what, if you're drinking, I'll drink with you. And now what happens? I wasn't planning on drinking at all, but because you need me to drink with you, I'm not fine. I'm making tea for both of us. In the other culture, why are you lying to me? They ask you once, you want to drink something? You say no, you're going to die of thirst that night. You'll never get food again. In fact, talking about tarof, when I gave this class in Los Angeles, one guy was telling me that he married into an Israeli family, but they came from a very cold culture. And this is like before refrigerators were in Israel. It was the grandmother of the family that I was staying with, like the baba, she's the... And she said when she got married to her husband came to the house. It was Friday night, and they had Sheva Brachos, where they came, and he didn't eat any of the food because he didn't like the food. So he came to his in-laws' house, and the in-laws said, are you hungry? Do you want to eat something? He said, no, I'm okay. Really, he was dying of starvation. And he was waiting for them to ask again, but they didn't ask. So they went to bed, and all of a sudden, in the middle of the night, he just woke up because he was so hungry. So he figured there's food. What do they do with the food? They put it near the window where it's cold. And they cover it so that, raccoons or other animals don't come eat from the food, mice. Yeah. So it was covered with, like, pots. They put a plate and they cover it with a pot or something. So he decided to go. In the middle of the night, he sneaks to the kitchen. He takes one of the pots. He starts eating, and he's eating, and he's eating. And he moved his elbow, and one of the pots fell on the floor. And immediately the doors open. Who's there? What's there? And they started taking rocks and throwing into the kitchen, and they threw sticks into the kitchen, and shoes into the kitchen, because they thought it was some kind of animal in there. And then they come into the kitchen, and the poor guy's on the floor, hit with a rock, piece of wood in his head, he's laying on the ground. That's tarof. They didn't know to tarof you. They didn't know to ask you 3 times if you wanted to eat, and the poor guy went to bed hungry. Part of me says that this story happens in Persia. Now, every culture, one culture has this, but only the Persians have a word, tarof. When someone says, like, you go to your friend to a restaurant, and your friend tells you, like, I'll pay, no, you'll pay, I'll pay, no, you'll pay. And then, you do split it 50-50 anyways. You have to do that. If you don't do that, that's rude. But sometimes you got, like, your American friend, and you say, hey, I'll pay. He's like, oh, that's so nice of you. I wasn't actually planning on paying, but listen, you said it, so what are you going to do? You're going to lie now?
It happens to me all the time.
It happens all the time. And that's just a little bit of the differences here in the culture. So I gave a class there on the Middle East and the Sephardic Chachamim's vision for peace in the Middle East based on their understanding of the culture that was in the Middle East. For a different class at a different time. And Esther brings them to one meal, but she doesn't tell them anything in that meal. This is kind of like to warm you up. Like, just feel happy, just feel good. I'm making parties for you. When you invite people, you make them feel proud of themselves. And then you just wait a second time. And second time already, it's time to tarof. You finish your tarof, now it's time to get down to business. This is the way Esther is working. She's familiar with this culture. She knows what is happening over here. If she would have asked in the first time, that would be rude. What, you bring me to a party because you needed me? You want to use me? So someone calls you and they haven't called you since some guy sent me a text message. Since 2014, they didn't send me a text message. Which is fine. But my answer back was, what can I help you with? Because that's the only reason he's reaching out to me, because he needs something. He doesn't care how I'm doing. The last few years, he didn't care how I'm doing either. 4 years. And the truth is that that's how often people are. Now, in certain places, my wife's family, they'll answer the phone, yes. Yes. Who's that? That's not a bad thing. Meaning I'm talking to my wife. Yes. Okay, yes. I have to think what to do with that. Think? I need to know why does it take you so long to answer what I'm telling you? We had somebody that used to work with us, and she would text us. And there was no like, hi, how are you, good morning, good afternoon, just, you need to move, da-da-da-da. And my wife would be like, thank you so much, and she would do it. I'd be like, excuse me, it's 8 o'clock in the morning, you just texted me, you need to do da-da-da-da. Who are you, my boss? And I was like, she's not being rude, she's just, why should she waste her time? Hi, good morning, how are you, how are your kids? She just needs you to move a box, that's all she needed to happen. Because two different cultures. Esther is familiar with the situation here, and she's using that to her advantage. She brings the king once, and the king lowers his guard because it was just a party. The second time, the king's already crazy about her. Look at my wife making me parties all the time. He likes parties, this guy. He loves wine. In fact, we don't even know if there was food at this party. It was just a mishteh. It was a drinking party.
It's a feast.
I was invited recently somewhere. It was just drinks, alcohol. Where are Jews inviting people to a party for that just has alcohol? Next time, if I would have known, I wouldn't go.
Steal their money.
Yeah, but why? What's the point of it? Which Am Yisrael is going to sit down and drink all night long? Maybe another nation, but Am Yisrael. There are better things to do than getting drunk. But she calls him in, gives him wine, he likes it. The second time around, she asks, what does he say? I'll give you even half my kingdom. Was he being serious? It could be. Or it could be he's also being taruf. Meaning, I'll give you whatever you want, even half of the kingdom. Imagine you said, okay, I'll take half the kingdom. But someone says, I'll do anything you want. Anything? Careful what you're saying here. It's better not to say that. Better to say, tell me what you need, and I'll see if I can do it. Whenever you reach out to me, Rabbi, can you help me? I said, depends with what? I don't know. You tell me what it is you need, I'll see if I can do it. That's the best answer you should give somebody. And this whole story of everything we've said so far is why this Megillah is called Megillah Ester. Really, it should be called Megillah Ester and Mordechai. They both wrote the Megillah. It wasn't just Esther. Why did she get all the credit? But really, the pshat reason for why it's called Megillah Esther has nothing to do with Esther. Because Esther was not her name. There are a lot of people in this Megillah who don't have real names. We mentioned Memuchan. Esther is not her name. What's her real name? Hadassah. He Esther bat Dodo. She is Esther, his bat Dodo. What does that mean? We say niece, but really, she's the daughter of his uncle.
His cousin.
Which makes her his cousin. Though I'm not sure, and I'm going to tell you the truth, I'm not sure why in all the literature they keep saying his niece, his niece, his niece. I'm not sure if either they overlook what the definition of bat Dodo, the daughter of his cousin, or if perhaps bat Dod meant something different than the way we use it today, and it really meant niece. That I can't tell you. But it's an interesting question. Why it is that everyone says niece when really bat Dodo is cousin?
Because we say niece.
Bat, the daughter of my Dod. Who's my Dod?
Uncle.
My uncle. So her real name is Hadassah. Hadassah, but she's called Esther. Why? From the words that Hashem will Aster et panai, I will hide my face. This Megillah is telling you, Mordechai and Esther calling him Megillat Esther. Meaning realize that exactly because you think Hashem is not in this Megillah, everywhere that you look, you're going to find it. Every pasuk you look at, there is a Kadosh Baruch Hu there. HaPeretz has some beautiful commentaries in which he goes through key sentences in Megillat Esther and shows you that the acronym of those names spell Yud Kei Vav Kei. And he says that's pshat. That's not a cute gematria or Kabbalah. That is when it says that Haman this happens to him and it spells out Yud Kei Vav Kei. This tells you HaKadosh Baruch Hu is right here. You think not, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu is here. And this is something very important to realize that in life, it's oftentimes the things that you think are so coincidence. How did they work out so perfectly if it was just nature? Dafka there, look closely, zoom in, you'll see HaKadosh Baruch Hu's fingerprints everywhere. And that's what we're supposed to do. That's what we're supposed to look for. That's the way we get through this galut. And to remember that just because Hashem is not splitting the sea, look at our forefathers. I'm not saying anything bad about them. But in the days of splitting the sea and man falling from the heaven, and it was those generations that believed in HaKadosh Baruch Hu the least. I would argue that many of us have a very deep relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, even though we may never have seen his face or seen a miracle happen at his hands. It's not Hashem. Hashem should guide us and Hashem should help us. That everything that we do should be with the knowledge that Hashem is everywhere. In all of your ways, know Hashem. Every way that you go, everywhere, know that you're walking always with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And when you have that in mind, when I envision Hashem before my eyes always, what will happen to me? He will never let my right hand fall. When I bring Hashem into my life, He stays there. B'ezrat Hashem, that's something we should do forever and ever. And everyone should have a Chag Purim Sameach.